right in the frying pan and not deny it. And I kind of appreciate his words kind of back up what he does. And he's been on both ends, the giving and the receiving. Definitely perhaps more on the giving, but with 50 wins, I didn't have a problem with last week's move. If I was the crew chief of the 5, I would have been mad, and I'd have had a problem with it. But like Dale said earlier, and I thought Dale put it the best, I can't have a problem with it and then love it and say, man, we need that in every race. I think that's hypocritical.
I had him on the podcast a couple years ago, and he said the whole problem with all of this is he has resting jerk face.
I remember him saying that. That's right.
And so, you know, if he didn't have that, then people wouldn't be so misunderstood.
It's so difficult.
Oh.
Here's Ryan Newman, the 45-year-old out of South Bend, Indiana. The Rocket Man, Ryan Newman. So many poles in his career. Rick Ware Racing has come over and run this car a couple times this season. And again, it's one lap. Newman put a 24:20 up. I had mentioned as we were going away to break, will we see that, you know, around 23 flat qualifying? Now the temperature has gotten higher. Is that something is that number going to be achievable?
Man, I don't know, right? I mean, Ryan Newman slowed down a half a second. So now you have Ty Dillon out here, and he was 8th in that first group at a 23:30. Man, I'd be shocked if he runs that 23:30 again. I mean, I don't think so. I think that 23:0 is going to be the fastest lap we see today. I mean, we used to come here to test, and it was the most frustrating. How do you evaluate anything when the track makes this big, you know, sweep?
Here's Ty Dillon in the 77. Spire Motorsports this season made the move over. I think Ty is another one where you scratch your head and think, man, you would have expected him to run a little bit better, but haven't seen a lot of that out of him.
You know, I'm actually, I'm kind of happy with this team. This is the second Spire car. Look, I mean,
and they fired their crew chief this week.
I know that, but I have been watching this car run for, let's just say, 5 years, right?
Okay.
However long this 77
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. In the total of 5 years,
Yeah,
it is definitely good. I think that's fair.
Things gotten better.
I agree with that statement. I think the struggle is that it's separating from the 7.
Well, it wasn't. I don't want to say a joke, but it was pretty bad. Now
Right,
it's gotten,
no,
yeah,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, now it's racing, right?
Here's Daniel Suarez. Again, Ty was 24:28 for his fast lap.
So that's a second off what he wasn't practicing. I mean, we talk about the track. That's what makes it so difficult. Like, how hard do you drive it? How do you set it up? What do you do?
Single car qualifying, 24:26 for Daniel Suarez on lap 1. We'll see if he can pick it up on 2.
Yeah, and I just don't. I mean, I think you got to be thinking the first lap. I just don't see anybody really finding much on the second lap.
So let's take a look at this here and see if, you know, this is a little bit of a slide, but that's not really costing him a ton of time.
Here's J.J. Yaley in the 15. Compared to Newman right now.
So back to Dale's point about the 77, I think what he's saying is absolutely right. Rick Ware Racing continues to chart up. Spire continues to chart up. The 36 charters over time, in my opinion, have done what they are supposed to do. I think the business model of going to run all the laps, making it, you know, collecting a paycheck and trying to doing it, I don't want to say for the minimum, but very affordably, is disappeared. I think the entire garage area is spending every dollar they have to run faster. And I think that's what we're seeing out of both Spire and Rick Ware. I mean, think about Rick Ware. They just hired Justin Haley for next year. I mean, that is a major commitment to performance. So when, you know, Dan, when you put it in that perspective, I agree. I think the whole back, say, 10 cars of this series continues to improve each week.
Dylan.
We caught up with Martin Truex Jr. before he goes out to qualify the Bass Pro Shops Toyota. So this place is always tricky. It's always slick, right? But does the heat today make it even more so that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every time we come here, it seems like it gets slicker. And, you know, this heat today obviously is a big deal. So it's, man, it never feels very good. Even, you know, 2-3 laps in on tires, it doesn't feel very good. But you just got to kind of manage and try to be smart, try to be calculated, hit your marks, and not abuse the tires. So our Bass Pro Camry felt, speed-wise, looks pretty good. Feel-wise, feels pretty typical for us here in practice. So in a good place now. Just need to go get a good qualifying lap.
Whenever it doesn't feel good, I think that makes qualifying more entertaining for us to watch. So we'll see what happens when some of these guys get out here a little bit later.
Yeah, Martin Truex Jr., a 3-time winner here. As we see Corey LaJoie, he put the fastest lap down. Now could back it up with the faster lap on his second one.
Yeah, a little bit faster. Or no, the exact same.
Good hustle, P1 so far.
It was a little bit of a messy lap. He got the apron one time. It looks like he was really trying to hustle the car. You just heard Truex talk about how it never feels good. Well, that makes it very hard to hustle. We heard William Byron say, Dale, that the tire doesn't lock in, that it just never feels. You think that's, I mean, explain that. Like never, you just don't know exactly where it is. You got to be a little cautious.
Yeah, typically when you go to racetracks, the first couple laps on the tire has good grip. The grip comes in eventually somewhere at some point. Here at this racetrack, it's slimy, greasy. Every lap, even the very first lap, feels like you are on 100-lap tires. Even a brand new tire feels like an old tire. And it's just going to progressively get worse and worse with every corner you run. You really have to be able to adjust your throttle, braking, and all the things. You have to be willing to slow the car down, slow down your expectations of what the car can do.
Starting to see a little more speed as we're closing in on breaking through that 24-second barrier. Haley goes 24:09 to be the fastest of this group. Dylan.
Daniel Suarez finishes his qualifying run. He's 4th right now. So what did you think about your run and your laps?
It wasn't very good. We've been struggling with the car. In practice, the car was very disconnected. And for some reason in qualifying, I thought we were going to be good for 2 laps, but no, the car was just very broken. The car is doing too many different things for 2 corners. So we have some work to do. Hopefully we can make it better for tomorrow.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, we heard him talk in practice about being loose on entry and exit and tight in the center. So some work to do for the 99.
We are comparing to 5th now, which is Suarez. We just heard from him. Very broken. If you're a crew chief and you hear that out of your driver, you got to be a little bit nervous.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, look at the lap time he ran. It's definitely nowhere near where the 99 wants to be. Travis Mack and him are going to have to put their heads together and come up with a plan on dissecting broken.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good way to put it.
Dude, I like the word. I mean, I would have used, an expletive.
Yes, you would have.
And probably upset the crew chief, made it right mad. But he said, hey, it's broken. And that's pretty straightforward. Like, this thing is not good.
Oh, boy. I don't know if Blaney meant to run that lane.
Yeah.
Thought it wasn't looking too bad. Thought it might come the other way. Lost a half a tenth doing that up the track and couldn't gain it back off the corner.
Gaining a little bit here.
So now he's going to have to run a second lap after that turn 1.
Look at that car getting loose right there, and there's a bit of a there's some somewhat new pavement for a tunnel that was put in years ago. It seems like it's got some bumps and some content on corner entry as those cars moving around a little bit.
Steve, it looks like he's going to improve.
Yeah, I think that shows how much of a mistake he made at turns 1 and 2. Just overcooked the entry. He's going to run the best lap so far. Let's take a look at what you were talking about, Junior. It's entering turn 1. He kind of goes
right there. Is that new asphalt? He's locking the left front up, sliding the left front. So he's charging the corner really hard, hoping to get on the brakes and point the car down the racetrack, and the left front starts sliding. And there's nothing you can do about that but let the car drive up the racetrack.
And, the problem is, people say, well, just, I would almost rather every once in a while to see the driver lock up the left front and miss the bottom than go out there and be like, I don't know, it drove good. Well, we're still slow. Like, you have to go to the grip of the car. And Blaney obviously felt he could attack the car. Like you mentioned, 24-second lap. That's slower than he ran in practice. So it's very hard to know what's available. Now Almirola sets a fast time.
First sub 24-second lap, 23.97. And don't know if he'll be able to pick it up on his second lap or not.
So now if I was a crew chief on pit road and I've seen the 12 up the track and now the 10 up the track, I would be talking with my driver, be like, hey, man, understand, 24-second lap is fast. That's what you ran at lap whatever, 8 or 9 in practice here to give you an idea of just how much grip the racetrack has lost.
The first 9 cars have gone, and the fastest so far is Almirola. Corey LaJoie now on the bubble. Laps, Blaney and Cindric both right now in the top 5. And again, a reminder, the top 5 from each group will advance to the final round of qualifying, which will determine the pole and the top 10 starting positions. Now, Harrison Burton subsidiary, could we call that, of
there's the
Team
Penske car that Wood Brothers owned. It's prepared in the Penske shop. It's no secret at all. And, you know, you saw Blaney and Cindric having those conversations, and the one thing consistent is it looked a little bit of bewilderment and disappointment. Like they're not sure why their cars are doing what they're doing, or they're disappointed they're doing what they're doing because they are not very fast. We're going to see it right here. Burton is going to be much faster. There you go.
So Harrison Burton, fastest lap, 23.95. You look at manufacturers right now, Ford is dominating the top 5. 4 out of the top 5 speeds are from Fords. Are we seeing a little bit of a transition? Is that happening yet?
Well, the concern is the reason that they're all going is because they're qualifying right now because they did not have the best days at Pocono. So they're at the bottom of the metric.
The metric does change things. Dylan?
Ryan Blaney is third right now. So we were watching your lap. What's the challenge of just getting the car to stay hooked up for a lap around here right now?
Yeah, I think you got to start with not smoking it off into one like I did and missing the whole corner. That hurt us a lot. I think first that's going to be your best one, and I ruined it pretty bad. You know, had an okay second lap, but you're just not going to go as fast. So that really stunk. I blew that one for us. But I thought our body armor Menards Ford Mustang was pretty decent in practice. So it was kind of free. But hopefully we get it better for tomorrow. But yeah, qualifying's weird here. You know, you always feel like you can get more than what you actually can. And it can bite you like it did me. So it's all about trying to be smooth, but also trying to find the limit of the tire. And sometimes you go past it.
Thanks, Ryan.
That is so true, man. This is such a hard place to qualify at. And you make a lot of mistakes, and you'll drive as hard as you can, think you put together a great lap, and it's 30th. We got the pole here one year, and I had no clue. I was like, I ran the lap. I'm like, oh, boy, that's hopefully 15th. I don't know. And they're like, hey, we're on the pole. I mean, I'm like, you know, I don't know. Felt terrible. So.
Well, then I might have been quick to judgment because I didn't think Blaney's lap was very good, but it still sits there in third, right? I mean,
yeah.
This track throws curveballs to the drivers, as Ryan did a very good job of explaining, throws curveballs to the crew chiefs, and even us up here in the booth, I don't know what to expect, right? I mean, there's no target. I mean, the lap time and the overall grip has changed dramatically. I thought that 24 flat by Blaney sitting in third for sure wouldn't hold up, and more cars run, and he still sits right there. Harrison's lap's looking better and better at the top of the board.
Yeah, definitely. As we see now, the 23, Bubba Wallace comes out on track. This will be the first of the Toyotas. There'll be 3 in this group. Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell, and Denny Hamlin.
Got off the corner really good there, slid the rears, but continues to gain down the back straightaway. Real nice, clean entry there. Continues to gain off the corner here.
That thing looked like a race lap almost. He was so calm and around the bottom. Well done.
Shifted, quick shift.
23.89 for Bubba Wallace, fastest lap turn.
Well, look, comparing him to his own lap, he's a 10th better. So Ryan thought it would definitely be the first lap. See if he can continue this speed, man. If so, this is going to be a monster lap. Oh my goodness.
P1.
23
and you ran a
86.
The only time he shifted was very briefly into high gear at the flag stand, then quickly back down into fourth gear and runs the whole rest of the lap in fourth.
Yeah,
that was interesting. Look, Chase is like, do I shift? Do I not? I don't know.
Is there confusion? I mean, you're right. He came into this qualifying lap. You'd think he would have known going into that lap.
Yeah, the audio's a little off here, so it's giving us the idea that he's not shifting there, but trying to shift and not shifting. He was shifting on both ends of the racetrack, though. You can see him shifting on the back straightaway and the front straightaway, whereas Bubba was doing it differently.
23.88, his first lap for Chase Elliott, and that is second quick. Dylan?
Well, we've heard all these veterans talk about how difficult it is to find speed and find pace here and just get a comfortable race car. Imagine if this is your first time ever in a Cup car. That's the case for Derek Kraus today, who's subbing for A.J. Allmendinger. So I know it's been probably like drinking through a fire hose, but what's been the biggest challenge for you so far today, just getting comfortable in this car?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing so far has been the brakes and the shifting. I've never had to shift at an oval other than Gateway, so it's definitely different. It's a whole new animal, but it's been a lot of fun, and I can't thank Matt Colleague and Chris Rice enough for this opportunity.
All right, Derek Kraus going to try and qualify the car for A.J. Allmendinger here in just a little bit.
Again, that'll be for pit selection only, because once AJ comes back to race on Sunday, they'll have to start in the back with the driver change. As we see, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. now has the fastest lap at a 23.82.
Scrape the wall, coming to the green.
Whoops.
Yeah, just a touch.
Getting everything he could.
And a nice lap, right? With only 3 guys to go, he knows he's going to move forward. Bubba Wallace as well knows he's going to be okay.
Those two are the only guarantees right now that they will be a part of the second round of qualifying, as William Byron now trying to break into that top 5.
So to your point, Junior, now we're going to see this 24 and 4th gear on the bottom left. We'll see if he goes to 5th on the backstretch. Now he doesn't, right? So now he's like Bubba Wallace, Chase Elliott doing something different. So my question in my mind is, we hear a lot about shifting for engine performance, but then the drivers talk about this will be another good lap.
Really good lap.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's good.
good.
Run another lap. So my point is,
23.66.
shifting is not just for RPM, but it's also for car handling. Maybe their car's doing something in turn 3 that they want to stay in 4th, where maybe Chase was thinking, I want to be a different way. Like, he wants the downshift to maybe make the car turn. I have to ask some of these drivers if it is an engine or engineering driven choice, or if as a race car driver, if they feel like they have a choice.
Right.
Dylan.
Nice lap for Bubba Wallace. He sits 3rd right now. So what do you think about your lap and what kind of race car you've got?
And we're just getting so much information, right, and trying to nail a lap, and it's tough, right? I've never really qualified good here, and first going out a little bit later in the first round is a little bit of a benefit, but it looks like the track's picking up some, so it's all about finesse at these moments. Step up a little bit.
All right, we're going to try not to get run over by William Byron here. Were you happy with that, though, overall?
Yeah, I didn't give myself enough credit going into it, so really pleased with the lap, and see what happens. I don't know if we made the transfer. I think we did, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be close.
He's in for right now, 3rd for Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, he'll be in. You can tell him there's not enough cars left that would knock him out, so he's going to make it. As we see Christopher Bell finishing up his qualifying run, and not what he was expecting, 11th fastest.
And Dale, I wasn't shocked lap 1, right? Made a mistake. Way too hard in the turn 1 up the racetrack. But I was a little surprised. Christopher is super talented that he didn't make a big enough adjustment to run the bottom in 1 and 2. That just tells you he knows what he's doing. He runs dirt tracks. He adjusts every single lap, and he still couldn't back it down enough. And Denny Hamlin's looking for a 1 and done here.
And as quickly as I mentioned, Ford's having a good run in qualifying. Denny's about to knock him out. All the Fords knocked out of the top 5 as Hamlin posts the fastest lap, 23.55.
And the other hot lap, man.
Big advantage for the 3 that go late of Hamlin, Byron, and Stenhouse. They only run 1 lap on their tires. That might pay off in the second round.
118 degrees inside the car. You see that with the in Group A qualifying, the fastest Denny Hamlin right there. And Denny chatting a little bit with Chris Gabehart, his crew chief. Who will be fast in Group B? Well, it might be the guy standing next to Dylan.
It might be. That's Kyle Busch. We'll get his thoughts here. So did you have the feel in practice that you were looking for and hoping for?
Yeah, definitely felt pretty good. You know, the X-World Wallet Chevrolet was pretty fast, and liked the way that it felt. A couple little things on the long run, just getting a little bit loose, trying to control that and make sure that we can have longevity for the long runs here. But, you know, felt pretty good, and overall looking forward to what we can do here qualifying. Hopefully a top 5 spot and get ourselves in the second round.
All right, we'll let him go catch up with his race car. He's about 10 in line here, and Kyle Busch will go out on the racetrack for his qualifying run.
This is BJ McLeod out on track now, and he's the first to post a time at 23.91 for this Group B.
Now that would have been 6th in Group A.
Yeah.
And I say that because he's going to, you know, if he doesn't make the top 5, he'll be put right into order. And right now he has outrun everyone who didn't make the top 5 in Group A.
We talked about the speed in the Spire cars and Rick Ware racing. I also saw big gains out of BJ and his team last week at Pocono in just their speed in comparison to the rest of the field. That's a good lap for them.
Here's Chase Briscoe. You see him flirting with the green now down the backstretch. Pretty good lap here for Briscoe.
And I have to ask myself if the track conditions for Group B in practice has given them more realistic expectations in qualifying. I say that because Hamlin was fastest in Group A, and let's remember he waited 5 minutes. He was slowest in practice of that group.
Yep.
He waited to the, so who went out on that new racetrack? That was the only time they had new tires on. And the driver got a feel, and the crew chief had adjustments, and every bit of decision making they had, as we see Briscoe go faster yet, you know, every bit of decision making they had was based on a track that nobody else is going to run on. So I have to ask if these guys have just, they have better information being in that second group of practice.
Or also, was the track just really bad for the first 8 or 10 that went in that first group? I mean, you know,
It could have.
Yeah. Anytime, even usually in qualifying, when it was all one group, you didn't want to be in that top 8 or 10.
Right.
You know, for whatever reason, there just wasn't a lot of grip or speed in the track, and I wonder if that's skewing the way we're looking at this as well. Because those laps there toward the end, Hamlin ran are incredible laps comparable to the rest of the people in his group, Group A. And we're seeing all of the laps so far in this group being much, I mean, 3/10 quicker than the last group.
Yeah.
I just had to write another group that I had forgotten about on my list as far as people that probably aren't happy with each other. Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon. Take a look at what happened with Dillon here. Reddick comes up the track. Austin Dillon maybe came down. It was yeah, I think when we saw it, it was Austin Dillon coming down the racetrack. Reddick was there.
Yeah, I talked to Austin a lot this week about this wreck, and he just feels like that the move that Reddick made was a low percentage move. Nobody was going to go down on the bottom of the racetrack 3 wide and make a pass, and he felt like that was just a risk and consequence that Reddick could have prevented. And I also looked at it from the 3-car moving, but Reddick also went straight.
Yeah.
You know, there was no intent to turn just yet when the contact was made. So I could see both sides of that argument.
Hey, one thing I won't allow an argument to have is that helmet throw that people want to question. They have no idea how big that turn 1 is of Pocono. That was not a bad throw. It was a skip, but it was a lot of distance.
Let's hear from him.
And we're trying to make sure he doesn't sideswipe us here as he's pulling into the pit box. So, okay, so let's move past Pocono, and I want to talk about this weekend and the race car you've got and just kind of how you feel about it in practice so far.
Yeah, we definitely weren't the happiest with the balance on our Toyota Camry TRD, unfortunately, but I can't question the pace of our car. Unfortunately, we did a good job on it. You know, it's really cool to have West Coast Customs and Xfinity 10G on this car. Hoping to make it as fast as Xfinity 10G, but we obviously have some work to do on the long run pace, you know, but we have some great guys to learn from, like Denny. Bubba had good pace. Martin's got great pace, so got a lot of good people in our camp to help us along with that process.
Yeah, the Toyotas are always good here, and Reddick will go out second to last in qualifying.
Well, that's going to be the place to be if the track continues. Dale, I'm jumping over to your side and your strategy and theory about this racetrack because everybody goes faster. Harrison Burton is 6th in Group A, and currently everyone in Group B is out qualified. Yeah. So you know, he's going to start like 28th or 29th at the rate this is going.
There's Logano, and again comparing him to Preece, about 0.2 of a second slower.
All right, they'll be killing our theory now here on the racetrack.
Yeah, this lap here is not going to be one I think he's very thrilled with. The slowest of the 6. See if he can do some better work here on lap 2.
That's shocking to me because when I think about Penske and their short track program, it's the fire off speed that comes to mind. It's not long run speed. So this is normally cars I have favorited for great qualifying positions. So this is, I thought it was a slight improvement, but I'm not sure it really is. Barely.
Blaney was 24 flat. in the first group as far as his teammates. Cindric was 24.29, and there we see Logano at 23.97.
Well, Ryan Preece has thrown the target up for everyone. Todd Gilliland right there, kind of on track. Lost a little bit there on exit.
This looks like it's going to be a good lap, though. Again, still comparing to Preece. About a 1/10 of a second slower. But he goes 4th quickest on that lap. And lap 2 for Todd Gilliland. Looks like it's going to be a little bit slower. And so Gilliland 3rd quickest.
That was a pickup.
It was a pickup, 23.71. Or 73, excuse me.
And if you can beat or run what Joey Logano's ran, the slowest car in this group, you're still ahead of about 12 cars from Group A.
Yeah.
So while you might be disappointed to be at the back end of this group, it's not going to be at the very back end of the field.
And look, people can talk all about Group A versus Group B, and it's unfair. You just mentioned it. When the old bingo ball used to decide where you went out to qualify, you come here, you go to Charlotte, you go to Dover. If you're out in the first 5, you might as well run race trim that day. 0 chance you're going to qualify in the top 10 in those races. The track didn't allow it. So this is not something new. This happens in every, qualifying session. Dirt tracks around the world, where you at when they water it versus when they roll the track in. I mean, someone always seems to have the ability of having a better track.
McDowell's first lap, 5th quickest. $23.79 for McDowell. Bowman on the clock. Again, his teammate Byron put up a 23.66 in the first group. And this looks like it's going to be a little bit faster than McDowell to start off with. 3rd quickest, 23.72. He's going to stay in the gas, see if he can do better.
Little slide right there. Going to cost him some time on corner exit here, about a tenth and a half.
23.72, the fastest lap for Bowman. We continue with qualifying. That's at 3 o'clock. Then tomorrow, countdown to green here on USA at 2:30, and Cup Series racing at 3 o'clock. Again, only 5 races remain in the regular season. So we see Derek Kraus out on track. Right now, again, qualifying this car for A.J. Allmendinger, who is racing in that Xfinity Series race at Road America here this afternoon.
Well, very little to gain here. You pointed it out, right? When A.J. returns tomorrow, this car will have to start last. So it's just a pit stall, and you have to ask. You're asking a young driver to have him go out there and qualify for just a pit stall. I think is taking undue risk. So I think that's why the pace is what it is. This was just a plan for the 16 car.
Turned a lap in 24.63. As you mentioned, they'll grab the pit stall wherever they fall in line, as Kyle Busch is making his way out. Feast or famine, it seems like, for Kyle Busch this year. We've been to a couple racetracks where I look at New Hampshire. He went out in practice, had an issue. Qualifying, had an issue. Race, had an issue. But he's also been to Victory Lane already this year a couple times.
This is a hard track to handicap for Kyle Busch just because of what you mentioned at New Hampshire. Is that a short track issue or just a New Hampshire issue? Practice looked pretty good. We heard from him. He seemed to be somewhat optimistic about his car. And now here he is with a good lap going.
1 and 2. We're a little high, 2, 3, and 4 here.
Trending against his teammate right now in the green, and he'll bump Dillon out, and he's fastest at a 23.61.
Wisely, he's going to save.
He shuts her down after 1 lap.
Yeah, if there's any tire life left, he wants him in the second round.
Let's hear from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's with Dillon.
Yeah, he's 3rd in Group A, so he'll have a shot at the top 10 when we get done with Group B cars here. So do you have anything left in the tank? You feel like you've got a car that can qualify or contend for the pole maybe?
I don't know. I mean, the 11 and 24 put some really good laps down, but
I do like that, you know, at least all of us have one lap on our tires, and most of us in that first group. So going out late was definitely a benefit for our Kleenex Camaro guys. I scuffed the wall there a little bit coming to the green, just trying to get as much speed as I can. You know, the start-finish line is so far down the front straightaway that, you know, there's a lot of time to be made up from start-finish to turn 1 entry. So I'll probably change my lineup a little bit for this next round, but hopefully we can keep it in the top 5 somewhere.
All right, Ricky going to try to best his Richmond best qualifying effort of 4th a little bit later on this afternoon.
See, fighting that wheel for Brad on corner exit puts him into the 4th position.
23.71 for Brad Keselowski.
Just powers up, maybe a little higher than he wants, has to put some wheel into it, and that kind of induces a little bit of movement in the back of the car. And there was no doubt that was going to be his only lap. Well, look at the 5 of Kyle Larson taking that real high entrance, kind of getting it wound up maybe.
Yeah, I think he gets the car up the racetrack, turns down the throttle up sooner and get a really strong run off the corner, and he's already a 10th up entering turn 1. So
you can lose a little bit of that on corner exit.
Basically saying, hey man, I'm gonna be a half-tenth better at the flag stand to turn 1, doing it that way.
Does he break into the top 5?
That's surprising to me, because I think, you know, Tart, you pointed it out, this car looked really good in practice.
You wonder though, with it being an impound, if the car is just so free, turning so good, that when you go to attack, if you know, it just doesn't have what it needs. Because I liked how the car looked, not only on the timer, but in general. And now he picks up on lap 2, which would tell me that the car was probably a little free. They normally tighten up on the second lap.
1/1000th of a second slower than Keselowski, and so it's very tight right here in 4th and 5th, and that's what we'll compare to 5th right now to see if Ross Chastain can break into that top 5, potentially make it into the second round of qualifying.
A couple of names in that top 5 that we usually don't see with Ryan Preece and Noah Gragson are hoping that their times are good enough to be able to move forward. Both teams could really use even something as small as transferring into the final round of a qualifying session as a morale boost for the teams going forward.
One of Chastain, he's lost car chief, pit selection for some inspection issues earlier, so
rapid
bumpy day.
Wrapped it tight around 1 and 2, Steve. That's a popular line around this racetrack. We see drivers drift up in the middle of the corner sometimes here, but if your car's really perfect, you don't leave that yellow line. You really try to stay right next to it all the way around the bottom of the racetrack. Lap's not going to be a very good one, though.
10th fastest in this group for Chastain as they're winding down now. Ty Gibbs on the clock and only 3 after him. So that locks Busch into that second round.
Look at Gibbs's lap right here. Remember, Suarez said his car was broken. The one of Chastain not very fast either, but
this team's peaking at the right time too. They're walking right into this points battle for the last few spots in the playoffs.
Good. Don't run again. Stop it there.
It's going to put him at the top of the board with the 53.
How about the clear? So if that would have been a veteran, you would have just said good, maybe once on the radio, and they would have known. But with a young driver, I love the extra good. Don't run another lap. I want no confusion here on what I'm asking you to do. Little things like that sound silly, but, you know, they make a difference. Make it easier for the driver.
Dylan.
Brad Keselowski knocked down to 5th, so he's on the bubble now with a few cars remaining. So we saw the moment you had there on your first lap. Just take us through that and what you felt there.
Yeah, just pushing the car to its limit with our Build Submarines Ford Mustang here, and like to have a little bit more speed, but in practice we didn't quite have the short run speed. We had the long run speed, so we'll have to see what shows up tomorrow.
Did your lap 1 kind of moment there determine what you wanted to do or not do on lap 2 there by not running that?
Yeah, I just felt like I got all it had. So, you know, when you have that moment, it's like, hey, let's go home and let's work on it.
All right, that's the plan for Brad K tomorrow.
What a lap for Harvick. 23.35.
Way good.
Way good is right.
You notice the difference. They didn't have to tell Harvick to shut it down. Harvick was like, that one felt good, huh?
He's 0.2 of a second faster than anybody ran in the first group. 0.2 of a second faster than Ty Gibbs in this group. That was a huge lap for Harvick. 2 to go. Reddick and Truex Jr., the only 2 still to run in this Group B of qualifying. Comparing to Noah Gragson, he is 1/10 of a second faster. He enters 3.
A little loose right there, back in slap at the racetrack, but he hangs on to it. Man, that car is loose. He's in the fence.
Good lap, though.
All right, we're good. We're good. We're good.
We're down 23:58.
Sorry. I just knew I couldn't lift.
That one was more of a little bit of a brush. That one kind of popped the fence right here. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, that's relatively firm contact. That would make me interested to look at that right rear toe link a little bit and some other suspension parts. We'll see what the team opts to do.
Well, do you send him back out there in this next round and, hey, man, just let us know if you feel anything?
Yeah. Oh, for sure we're going to run another lap.
Yeah.
So the final qualifier, Martin Truex Jr., he has to run faster than a 23.64 to get into that final round and be in the top 10 in qualifying. And this lap is well inside that range.
A little movement there in the car. Everybody's struggling to get off of turn 4.
All right, shut it down here. Shut it down. Cool it off.
Tyler Reddick, the damage to the right rear there, and a huge lap for Truex Jr. as well, 23.43. What's the difference? I mean, it's not getting any cooler.
Well, we're getting ready to find out.
Went out.
Well, we're going to see the great debate. I believe the track got better. I mean, the entire group's faster, but now they're all going to go out at the same time. I think that's one interesting part about this qualifying is now that we're down to 10, you know, the group will go and then this group will go basically at the same time. We'll see, you know, who has better speed. That is pretty heavy contact on the right rear of the 45. Go back and look at that right rear wheel, the right front wheel. You see pieces of the wall kind of, you know, in the wheel itself. If you go back and look at the right rear, it's
right rear
worse.
has more.
The right rear definitely hit it. I mean, look at that thing.
Yeah, man, that's
moments that build into momentum as what we've seen this season. And right now, the one celebrating at the end of last week is on the top of the list for Group A as far as advancing into the final round. Denny Hamlin. Kevin Harvick posted the fastest lap, though, at 23.35. A huge lap for Kevin. Martin Truex Jr. also with a big lap. The second group faster than Group A, so we'll see how that all pans out as we take a look at the playoff standings. Again, everyone in yellow has won, and they are locked into the playoffs. And then with 5 races to go, everyone searching for the points to see if they can make it into these playoffs. We see Michael McDowell and A.J. Allmendinger right there on that line. Let's check in with Ty Gibbs, currently 19th in the standings. He's with Dylan.
And he was 3rd in Group B there, so he's one of the cars that only ran 1 lap on his qualifying run. So do you think that's going to be an advantage over some of the guys that have 2 laps on their tires?
Yeah, for sure. You know, luckily we only had to beat 3 people, so I feel like our heat gets us. Monster Energy Toyota Camry is really fast. You know, I feel like we have a good race car. Got to get a little bit better. You know, thank you to God for this opportunity, and thank you to everybody at Monster, Mitch Covington, David Galland, everybody over there, and everybody who gets us. So hopefully we can go get a pole lap. I never got a pole, so it'd be nice to get that. Points
are on the forefront of a lot of people's mind. I know they're on your mind too. So how important is having good track position here just to start your day off tomorrow and get some points?
Yeah, really good, and I feel like having good pit stall is important too. So I think we're in top 10. So hopefully we have a great pit stall pick, and we can you know, go forward and go charge tomorrow, get some good points, and it'd be nice to win. So that'd be good.
That's always good. Ty Gibbs going to go for that and try and lock himself into the playoffs tomorrow, and hopefully get a good qualifying starting position out of the deal too.
I love that out of the 20-year-old. It'd be nice to win. Then he smiles like, yeah, it'd be great if you'd win and make your way to the playoffs. As we see A.J. Allmendinger right now currently 17th in the Cup standings, but he's in Road America about ready to take on that track, and he'll start on the pole. Countdown to green at 2:30 on NBC and Peacock. And that race at 3 o'clock in NBC and streaming on Peacock. The action doesn't stop on USA. Stick around for Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, in this action-packed assassin versus assassin battle royale. That's Mr. and Mrs. Smith coming up next on USA. And the battle royale here at Richmond is who will win the pole. All right, predictions? You think Harvick can back up the lap that he put down?
I do. I actually think Harvick's in a good position to do that. Truex should be pretty good. It'll be interesting to see because session B was, we think, the quicker session. So what does Denny Hamlin have, right? He ran a 55 in that first session. But if he's, you know, now it's all square, we're all going to go out there and run at the same time. Can he match Harvick's speed?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the question mark for me is Denny Hamlin. I think it's the same as Junior. Harvick, Truex, even Ty Gibbs were pretty good. I think a couple drivers I feel bad for have a couple laps on their tires versus everyone else, right? That's the 9 at Chase Elliott. He's got 2 laps on his tires, so that's going to hurt him some. I think Bubba Wallace was the other one maybe that had 2 laps on his tires. So that's definitely going to make a difference here.
And all these guys are sitting in these cars, and it's 120 degrees inside. It's not comfortable. It's 116 in Denny's car. So they're not comfortable. They're waiting on their opportunity to go out there and put a lap down. Expect you to nail it under these conditions that are difficult.
We'll see how Chase Elliott does. He's the first on track. And you expect this to be a 1 lap unless you make a mistake, 1 and done?
Oh, I think so. I mean, he ran 2 laps the first time, so a mistake would force a second lap, or there's really no harm in running the second lap, but I don't think you're going to go faster. He ran a 28.88 in session 1. We'll see if they've made adjustments, if the track's gotten better, a combination of both. Well, there you go, 23.78, so he's a 10th quicker.
Picked up a bit there on his first lap. Stays in the gas. And lap number 2 for Chase Elliott. 23.82, so a little bit slower on lap 2.
And we'll see if Bubba Wallace, the last time out, I thought his ride around the bottom, I thought he was super patient. We'll ride along, see if he has that same sort of look. Patient once again. I mean, relatively smooth.
Or just a little bit of a handful. You see a lot of movement in the steering wheel.
First lap doesn't do it for Bubba Wallace. We'll see if he can gain on lap 2. He's in the green a little bit better. They're getting into 1.
This car definitely turns well. I mean, it rolls right around the yellow line. Back to the gas a little earlier this time.
P2.
Second.
I almost it was 23.
Yeah, second lap was better, but still not as fast as Chase. Hanging on. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. next.
He mentioned a little different line. We'll see if it's noticeable what he does different. I don't know if he's going to go up the racetrack some or.
Well, he didn't want to hit the wall again coming to the green like he did in the first round of qualifying.
Yeah, that was a half a lane up. I don't know if that was by choice or.
Real loose into 1.
Yeah, there you have it on the radio. Real loose into 1 is how we got a half a lane up. See what he does to adapt or correct this time.
.24.10 on his first lap, and second lap so far a little bit better.
So if you're seeing the cars that have went out so far already really loose, is there anything you can do, Steve, to help your driver?
Definitely that brake balance, right? I'd say, hey, if you have any tendency about the loose end, maybe put a turn or 2 of front brake in it to try to tighten it up when you get on the brakes.
Here's William Byron.
This is the car I wonder if he doesn't have more than we think. I think his lap was one of the first ones to really show up in Group A.
And he did a high entry to 1, stayed up the racetrack, and came down for a late apex off corner exit, and that really helped him. Put about a 10th on Elliott there. Not able to make that happen down in turns 3 and 4 for himself, so he's going to run a second lap here. Slotting in third right there with that lap.
And I'm super impressed with the 9 so far. I mentioned a couple laps on tires in the first group. I thought that was really going to hurt him, but here he is trending up front. It's great work by the 9 car to stay up there. As you see, there's Chase Elliott looking on. Great work by the 9. This goes back to what we were talking about, right? He needs a win, a bunch of seconds here, right? Could it be something as simple as just a little bit of a surprise qualifying spot? Is that the spark for this team?
Yeah. Again, the 9 had similar issues to what we saw out of Ross Chastain. Failed inspection twice, and so they lost car chief and pit selection.
But will keep their qualifying spot.
Right.
Yeah. So Denny's going to run this lap. And be a brief break between this and the next 5 cars. And you have to wonder, it's made some differences today. Will it affect the racetrack? Will it be better for this second 5? Will that be the reason why Denny Hamlin doesn't get a shot at the pole, having been in his first group all day long?
His downshift is one of the latest I had seen. He really waits.
78 on his first lap.
379, lap 2.
79 on lap 2. So for the first group to go out in this final round, Hamlin is fastest at a 23.78. Now Group B cars will be on track. First one being Busch.
So here you have it. This is right after Hamlin. So we talked a lot about Group A and Group B. Kyle Busch, ran a 61 in Group B compared to Denny Hamlin's 55 in Group A, but he just backed it up with a faster time.
Yeah. And there was a break scheduled after the 11.
And Kyle Busch decided to go.
Or they sent him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame it on Kyle.
Yeah. So Kyle Busch went out. He's the fastest. We'll be right back. Season. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. winning the Daytona 500 to start off the season. What about, I have to ask you guys, as far as fashion goes, William Byron's big hats. What's happening there? Are you guys a proponent of the big hat?
I don't think I get a vote, but my kids tell me they're cool.
Okay.
So if the kids think they're cool, I think you got to stick with it.
Yeah, not put much thought into it. I guess it's his thing, whatever.
Tyler Reddick's on the clock now.
I also see, Rick, I also see some cloud cover. I know it's very faint, but there is a little bit of shade kind of working itself around this racetrack. There was a break right then. Could it be an advantage? Reddick to the top of the board, but just barely. So right now, if there's any kind of gain from going out later in this session, it's very, very minimal.
Reddick on his second lap, and he's 0.2 of a second off of what his first lap was.
Good job.
So 23.74 is the mark. You see Kyle Busch looking up at the scoring pylon. Here comes Ty Gibbs, and he was all smiles after his round 1 qualifying effort.
Right around the bottom of 1 and 2. Nice and patient. Gained some pace down the backstretch. Once again, he's just trying to cover that yellow line. Looks like it slid off the bottom a little bit in the middle, and you see the speed on exit go away because of it. And it's so close. That is not a mistake. 7/100ths. That is first to 70. I mean, a 74 is quick, and 81. Welcome to short track qualifying. I think that's what makes you so mad and makes it maddening about when you go out and you think you have a good lap. And we're talking 7/100. I mean, take a stopwatch. You try to stop and start it with 7/100.
Right.
I mean, it's such a small margin.
Truex Jr. next out on the track, and Gibbs, by the way, slotting in 7th. So only 2 to go. Truex Jr. and Harvick, they were the fastest 2 in qualifying earlier. So we'll see if they can back those times up. And right now, it doesn't look like MTJ has it as he enters turn 3.
A little slide right there.
Keep running, yeah, keep running.
Another side, just now the good news, I'd be frustrated if the car was tight overall. It looks like it's just free. It looks like the back is definitely the one that lacking grip.
He's going to be 2.5 tenths, 0.3 of a second off of what Reddick posted. So Truex is now the slowest of the 9 that have gone. And here comes Harvick, the final one, to try to knock Reddick off the top of the charts. He was in the green through 1 and then lost it.
Yeah, way higher than I think Harvick wanted to run. He's a driver that normally paints right on that yellow line. He looked a half a lane up.
Reddick's watching as well.
Oh, this end much better.
It's close.
That's going to be it.
Yeah, he doesn't get there on lap 1. And as a matter of fact, he's 8th quickest on lap 1. That's going to shut it down. How about Tyler Reddick winning the pole here at Richmond, the 27-year-old with his 5th career pole. And you see team owner Denny Hamlin over there. All smiles for the 2311 group. And apologize for that. Dylan.
And let's step in and grab a word with Tyler Reddick. Denny Hamlin, who, of course, co-owns this car, was standing there watching our monitor and said, I told Chris Gabehart before the session that pole would be a 74, and he got it right. That was the time to beat for Tyler Reddick as he gives fist bumps to the crew, and we'll bring him over here. Remember, he got in the wall, too, in the first round, and the right side of this car is pretty beat up. So that was an exciting session from top to bottom for you, but do you feel like you got everything out of this race car you could to get the pole?
I mean, I got everything out of it for sure to get into the second round, but man, it's just it's a really exciting weekend for this team. Obviously, West Coast Customs has their own NASCAR version of a Toyota Camry just outside the racetrack that they're putting together today and tomorrow that they're going to be giving away to the NASCAR Foundation. So this car behind us, it looks a lot like what that car is going to look like here by the end of the day tomorrow. So I'm just really excited to be able to get this pole. You know, our car was this fast Xfinity 10G, and well, it's the Xfinity 10G car, so I think that fits pretty well.
I think so too. Tyler Reddick going to lead the field to green tomorrow at Richmond.
And we'll see if he can break a statistic that I just heard. He's never led a lap on a short track. That could change tomorrow.
Well, a lot of conversation. I think the big winner in qualifying besides Tyler Reddick, the 9 of Chase Elliott, right there in row 2, looking like a must-win situation. That's a great place to roll off from.
Kevin Harvick brought great speed this weekend back there in row 4 with Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, you see some other names up here, right? We have Noah Gragson having a great run, Kyle Larson, Todd Gilliland. Row 8.
BJ McLeod, row 11. Incredible run for that team.
Yeah, so Harrison Burton, Logano, a lot of these guys were just on the wrong side of the draw, right? They were in the group that didn't have the best track, and for that reason, they're going to be near the back. They're going to have to make something happen quick.
And the final 2 rows there, Suarez, Ty Dillon, J.J. Yaley, and Derek Kraus. Again, A.J. Allmendinger will be driving that 16 tomorrow. Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, they had a eventful practice and qualifying, but right now, countdown to green on NBC and streaming on Peacock for the Xfinity Series from Road America. Give a reminder, A.J. Allmendinger's over there trying to get another win for Colleague Racing. Right here, the early win on Saturday goes to Tyler Reddick, winning the pole.